Today we're talking about how to generate high trust leads. And the deeper I got into prepping for this, the more I realized that I think I'm going to have to end up making this a two-part series. We'll be talking about today really just business by referral and leaning into that. And then next week, I think we'll get into a little bit more high trust leads that are online. They're strangers, but they still somehow come to you with some trust. And how do you do that? We're going to touch on both weeks, but the more I got into it, the more I realized that this really does warrant more than 1 hour. So I hope you join me then as well. We're going to try to cover things kind of with the framework of, in my mind, 3 different, I don't know if funnel is the right word. I hate to use that word because it makes it sound so like you're just a number to me. How can we turn and burn these leads kind of thing? But because they're people and we want to serve them as people, of course. But I think of this as, who am I marketing towards? Who am I developing a relationship with? People that you know. People that you know, and then they refer you. So they're strangers right now, but you have mutual acquaintances. Or 3, people that you don't know, but they're attracted to you online. So even though those are kind of 3 different markets, and I think how you talk to them goes in 3 different ways, there are some overlaps. So for example, things that you put out online to give yourself credibility online is going to reinforce your brand with people who already know you, because we can't take for granted that just because somebody knows you and likes you, that they would be comfortable using you. They might know you personally, but not understand how you work professionally. So everything enhances the other. But just to kind of give some framework to how I think of it, those are kind of the 3 categories when I'm kind of doing my marketing and how I'm thinking of things. So like I said, today we're going to really lean deeper into working by referral. I think that there is a misconception that working by referral means sitting by the phone and just trusting that it's going to ring. I think it feels passive to a lot of people. It feels like icing, but not something that you can control. And I guess I would make the argument to you that you can absolutely control it, and that there are a lot of proactive things that you can do to enhance your referral business. But why? What's the big deal? Why would you even bother to focus in on that so much? Well, a few reasons. One is, more than 80% of people find their agent by referral. This is by far the biggest pool. I think that number fluctuates year to year. NAR always does surveys, and so they come out with these studies. But it's always in like the 70 to 80% range. And what's interesting is people get more and more online. They might look for referrals online, but they still look for referrals. They just might do it a little differently. But it still feels like a big purchase to just do with a stranger. People realize, people don't get their hair cut from somebody that they don't know generally. So something as big as buying a house, they want to know that you have some kind of track record. So they're looking for referrals. The other reason that I really lean into working by referral, and kind of the title of this is, it's higher trust. If somebody's been referred to me, they're coming to me because they had somebody that had a good experience. And so when I tell them, hey, listen, I think if you want this house, you need to do this, this, and this. I'm sure and not that this is perfect. Sometimes they still need to learn on their own. But we've all had the experience where they don't listen to you the first time and then they lose the house and they listen to you the second time, right? That happens to us all. You get to that point of trust quicker when they've been referred to you versus if they just stumbled through an open house, all they know is that you put out nice candles. It just takes a little, you can still reach a point of trust with somebody who came to you cold. It just might take a little bit longer. And they might say things like, let me talk to my dad about that, right? And to me, that's a big deal from two standpoints. One is, obviously you have a better experience and they have a better experience if they're listening to their trusted advisor. But the other thing, I guess just purely from a business standpoint, is it's much more time efficient for both you and them, much more time efficient if they actually listen to your advice. The other reason I like to work by referral is there's a compounding effect. If you're focused in on that, if you're focused in on referral and taking care of people before, during, after the sale, what's going to happen is you don't just sell them a house, you sell them a house and then you sell everybody that they know a house is the idea. And you don't lose them. It's not like they refer you once and then they're done. They continue to meet people and they continue to run into people that that might need that. So there is definitely a compounding effect as your database naturally grows from the people who are referring you. There are ways to grow your database faster than just whoever is referring you. We will touch on that as well. The other reason is I think it puts you more in control of your business. Whoever controls the leads controls your business. So if you are buying all of your leads through pick an online source, if they change their rates, they decide to not give you that zip code anymore, whatever it is, they're in control. Even as simple as like Facebook changes their algorithms and who your posts get in front of. But if you have a personal relationship and you're the one driving that business, nobody can take that away from you. Your relationships aren't something that can change with an algorithm. So I think that's another really important reason to make sure that you're working by referral. And I'm not going to say that cold business is bad. It's just a matter of focus. So here's some myths. Here's some myths why sometimes people don't necessarily focus on business by referral. One is that there is limited growth potential. That if I only work by referral, my business growth is limited. The truth is your business is only limited by your skills, i.e. there may be people out there that are potential referrals that you aren't seeing yet. That's a lot of what this webinar is about. Let's open our eyes to more opportunities. Another myth, I need a really large database to make this work. The truth is, there are limitless ways to add to your sphere of influence quickly and to do cold business in a referral way. So it works no matter how many people you know. I do get a lot of people that say to me, I don't think I know enough people to work by referral. Like my database is only, whatever, 40 people, 30 people, 20 people. You go deeper with those 20 people that you do know, and then your focus is going to be on growing your database. But it's hard to go deep with thousands of people. So in a way, it's not awful to have a smaller database. But you're not just stuck with the database that you have. That's the other thing where people, when they say that to me, like, well, I don't know if I have a big enough database to just work by referral. Well, not yet, but there's a lot of different ways to expand your database. Another myth is that cold calling leads to more predictable results. I know if I make a certain number of calls, what my ratios are, I'm going to close a certain amount of deals. The truth is, that may be true of cold business. It's true of referred business as well. You can track your proactives and what you do to reach out to your database and know that if I make this many calls to my sphere, it's going to translate into this much business. And there's ways that we can be intentional about that. Making sure that the calls that we make are going to be the most effective that they can be. So how does it work? I just wanted to, because some of it is just making your clients aware. So I wanted to show you a little video that I think, if any of you have seen this, don't ruin it. Oh, shoot, wrong one. Ugh. Why is it doing that? All right, are you guys all seeing YouTube? The basketball awareness test. Hopefully, somebody give me a, oh, here we go. Just give me a thumbs up if you're seeing the basketball awareness test. For some reason, I put it as a separate tab, but. So this will show you your own awareness. You ready?
This is an awareness test. How many passes does the team in white make? The answer is 13. But did you see the moonwalking bear?
So I don't know if any of you have seen that before, but I always think that's a pretty cute example of what we're all looking for is how many passes the team in white are making. Oh.
Clearly, somebody in this room murdered Lord Smythe, who, at precisely
Sorry. Apparently it went to the next YouTube video. What we're all looking for is the moonwalking bear. And or that's what our clients are looking at because that's what's important to them. We want them to see what else is in the room. And that's what we call the reticular activator. Or the RAS, sometimes it's called the reticular activating system. It's the part of your brain that says what's important because we have so much input all the time going into our head. And your brain is overwhelmed by it. And so it has to decide, here's what's important to me and what I'm going to pay attention to. For example, if you've ever bought a new car, all of a sudden you see it all over the road. You had no idea how many people were interested in that same car that you have. And it's because all of a sudden it became important to you. If you had bought a Ford instead of a Chevy, you'd be seeing Fords all over the road instead of Chevys, right? Like that thing that's important to you, you see everywhere. So what we're trying to do is raise the antenna for our clients. They're paying attention to things that are important to them. And that's going to always be true. As much as that they like us, even your mom, she wants you to do well. She would refer people to you, but their reticular activator isn't going to be tuned in to the same thing that ours is. Like back when we used to be able to go out to eat, if you heard somebody around the, across the restaurant say, I'm going to an open house later today, we would be highly aware of that. And we'd be trying to figure out how you can casually go over there and slide your card across the table, right? Because that's our world. We're hearing that all the time. But somebody else that's not their world, they're filtering that out. So what's on us is to let people know what the trigger points are of when people are about to make a move. Things that we're aware of because it's our livelihood that they just didn't think about, not because they don't like us. So when you start thinking about it that way, all of a sudden, what your database becomes is something different than the number of people that if somebody proactively came to them and said, who do you know that's a good real estate agent, that they would answer your name. Those are great. We want advocates like that. But what we're trying to do is equip people to do more than that. If you tell people, hey, listen, if you ever see a dumpster in somebody's driveway and they're purging their house, odds are really good that they're doing that because they want to move. Mention me to them. If that's your neighbor, I can help you make sure you get a good new neighbor. And as we're letting people know, here are things that tend to be indicators that somebody's about to move. So that's one thing we're trying to do, is just awaken their activator. And that's why stories work so well. Because not only are we telling them, here's what to look for, but we're equipping them with, I had a client that was going through this thing and I helped them by doing this. Then it gives them something to say to that person that has a dumpster in their driveway, that they can then go to them and say, my realtor really helped me with staging. If that's what you're doing right now, you probably want to get them involved sooner than later, because they would do this, 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 and this. So the more that we can equip them with what to look for and what to say, the more referrals that you're going to get. Because even people that care about you, like you, think you do a good job, might not know what to say. I have a realtor friend who was one time saying his wife works at the hospital, and he was kind of giving her a hard time. Like, you're around these people all the time. How come you're not giving me more referrals? And it's her livelihood too, right? Like if your husband is doing well. So she was motivated to give him referrals. And she just said, you know what? I don't know what to say. I don't know what to look for, and I don't know what to say. So don't take anyone for granted. Very important to raise your clients' awareness. Another thing that I think about all the time, and if you've been to several of my things over the years, you'll have heard this before. You'll have heard the reticular activator. I talk about that a lot. The other thing I talk about a lot is a speaker that I heard one time that said, my success in real estate depends upon the number of people that when they think of real estate, they think of me. So it's just that critical mass in people's head. Because even if they like you as a person, you want them to think of you with real estate. And that does guide our marketing a bit. We want them to think of us. I mean, that's step one. But I don't necessarily want them to think of me when they're cooking. Although it's not bad, any thoughts I can get is fine. But I'm not going to send my people a recipe card as much as I do enjoy cooking. And it does have some staying power. That's why people were doing recipe cards. So not to knock recipe cards, but just to say when I'm doing my marketing, I really am trying to show my competence in the area of real estate. So I try to focus on that. Everything that I put out, I am thinking about how to raise their opinion of me as far as my character and as far as my competence. That's really what it boils down to. People want to do business with somebody they like, but even more so, they want to do business with somebody who they think is going to take really good care of them. I've heard the example before, and I'll relay it because I thought it was a good one. If you're going to have surgery and you've been referred to 2 surgeons, one that has a really good bedside manner and you're probably going to really like them, and another guy who is just top of his field, everybody survives, he knows exactly what he's doing, but he's not going to hold your hand. You're going to have to rely on the nurse for that. You're going to go with the guy whose survival rate is the highest in a situation like that. And I think the same applies to us, but both are important. You need the character and the competence. And when you have those together, that's a person people can refer. So everything I'm always trying to communicate, I do a good job and you can trust me. I'm always trying to, and I believe it's not about my commission check, it's about the experience that the client is having. And when you can communicate that, then it gives them a reason to trust you. Because I think people always have that a little bit in the back of your mind, in the back of their mind, like you're just saying that because you're pushing me to make a higher offer because you want to make a quick commission. There's always that little thing in the back of their mind where they wonder that. So the more that I can communicate that that's not what's my motivator, I think the more they're going to be able to trust my advice. And that's what we're talking about today, how to generate referrals of people who will trust me. And that's that character piece. So the very first step in getting referral business is making sure that they remember your name. I saw an interview one time, man on the street. This is another one of those stories that I tell all the time, so bear with me if you've heard it a million times. But they sent a guy out on the streets of Chicago with a microphone, and he just stopped people in the street and asked them, "Do you own a home?" Yes. Did you use a real estate agent? I sure did. Was your experience with them good? Would you use them again? Oh yeah, they were great. They took care of us. Like almost everybody said, yeah, we used an agent and we had a good experience. Then the next question was, what was their name? And it was mind-blowing to me how few people could remember. They're doing this thing. It's on the tip of my tongue. I think it was like Jenny or something, you know? And that's like, wow, they liked you. They remember you, but they don't remember your name. And that is just as simple as keeping in touch. It doesn't need to be anything fancy to get past that first step. That's just consistency. I send, and this is why I do snail mail and email and social media, is I want to be in front of them in whatever way they want me in front of them. So that could be a million things, but really I just want them to remember my name so that when they have the need, they can Google me for my address, right? But man, that's step one. So make sure you're staying in touch with people. And just being more memorable might be the thing that where you get the phone call. There might be somebody that they even like a little bit better. But if they know your name and how to get in front of and how to get in touch with you, and you're the one in front of them at the time that they need it, that's where consistency is really, really important. You can't just mention to somebody one time, I sell real estate, and expect them to be in touch with you when they have a need, even if they like you. This is not a matter of being the most well-liked, although that helps that they like you, but that's not enough. It doesn't end there. So your database, this really gets down to your database. Make a list of everyone you know. I don't want to presume that everyone has a database. I think statistically, it's only like 1 out of 6 agents that sends their clients things consistently. So I don't want to assume that everybody on this call does that. And even if you've done this before, it really is a good practice to do it again. Think about everyone you know. I tend to think about it as far as stages in my life. And remember, we're not limited to people in the Grand Rapids area. I like referral fees from all over the country. You know what I mean? I might market to them differently, but I'm not limiting myself just to people that I know locally. I want to be their source wherever they are. And I can always refer them to an agent that I know will do a good job for them. I'm happy to earn my 25% by doing some research on who would do a good job for them. I think that's great. So I'm in touch with anybody, no matter where they are. So I tend to think through just my stages of life. Who did I go to school with? Who have I been working with? Who have I been like in hobby groups with? Like I like to run, so I've been in a couple different running clubs. And those are great because you get to know people. I certainly know like what races people are going to run, but I don't necessarily know exactly what they do for a living. So if I can get them on my list of people that are receiving communications from me one way or the other, it helps me cross that line of now they know that I not just run marathons, but they also know that I sell real estate. So hobby groups, kids' friends, your parents' friends, vendors, man, there's just a bunch of different ways. Look at your Christmas card list. Look at your checkbook or your bank account. Who uses a checkbook anymore, for crying out loud? But look at, I do look at my Facebook friends list, my Instagram friends list, because I want to be connected with people in multiple areas. So I'm going to try to connect with people that I know offline, connect with them online so they can get to know me there. But people that I just know online, I'm going to try to connect with them offline. The relationship is different in the two different arenas. So I really try hard to have them in both. Oh yeah. Rose says she works in a bunch of different areas. And of course, I was just trying to say, even if it's in California or Colorado or Texas, whatever, I have a great network of agents. You don't have to have a network. You can create one. You can do research whenever somebody has a need, but really anywhere in the world, we can refer them an agent. So I want to make sure I'm communicating with everybody that I know everywhere. Do you like advertising in community groups, paper, I struggle to know if that's the right thing. It's expensive and pays for the printing of the paper for my community group. Oh, that's good. 3 closings from advertising. So how I think of like cold advertising, and maybe you'll have some input in this since you've been experiencing this, but I tend to do it with groups that I already have a connection with. Like I talked about my run club, they go for coffee, you know, not every Saturday, but lots of Saturdays after a long run, and often to this same restaurant. So I'm going to be more likely to advertise there because I know that there's a bunch of people that I know that are going to be sitting there. Yeah. And then Julie asked Kristen, did it pay for itself? And I'm actually kind of glad you asked that question, even though you didn't ask it of me. I think us as realtors, we tend to think if I paid $1,000 for this ad and I made $1,000, then I at least broke even. Except for you didn't. You need to do, I'd say at least double for it to make sense because of your time. If all you did was break even, you lost. You know what I mean? Sounds like Kristen did and then some. So keep doing that one, I guess. So Kristen, since we're talking about it, what kind of paper was it?
Actually, I'm Catholic, so I advertise in the bulletin.
Sure.
And so, yeah, I've just been the consistent one. There's other realtors that'll pop in and they'll do it for a year and then they pop out. But I'm on committees. I'm active at the church. I was the building chair for our church, so I'm very involved, and it pays for printing the bulletin and all those other things. But I don't know. I'm always, my marketing expenses are, with everything that I put into it, I'm high. My coach says I'm okay because I'm under 40%, but I'm like 37%. So, trying to figure that out. But, cause that's a big one for me. But then again, I get business from it, and people say, oh, I saw you on the bulletin, you know, and those are people I love to work with because obviously we have so much in common because we have a common faith. So I
wouldn't think of that as cold advertising personally.
Okay.
Those are the kinds of ads that I do all day, where I'm going to be in front of people that are connected with me in another way.
So I love this type of thing because you're like giving me permission. So thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So once you've made your database list, first of all, make sure you're really, really thinking about it. I've had people that tell me, yeah, I made my list, and they have like 25 people on that list. There is no way that you're a human alive in the world and you only know 25 people. It's just not possible. You meet 25 people walk into the grocery store, for crying out loud. You need to think harder. So that's why I'm trying to give ideas of, think about, like, church is a perfect example. You have all of that in common. And I know for me, I go to a big church, so there's people that I know because my husband works part-time at the church, so people that are in his little area. I know we go to a Sunday school class. I used to go to a different Sunday school class. Blah, blah, blah. So you have within that big interest group, even within that, like subgroups. And so think. It doesn't have to be your best friend. It has to be people that if they get something from you in the mail, they don't say, who is that? They know who you are. But really beyond that, I think that's enough to start that conversation. Now you might want to ask them, and I actually advocate for that. I work with Buffini and Company, and a script that they like to give us is, they call it the Mayor Campaign, where you ask people and say, if you were going to buy or sell a house, or if you had a friend or family member that was, do you have a realtor you'd refer them to? that's a great ask for permission script, because not everybody feels good about just kind of sneakily adding somebody to a mailing list and all of a sudden they're going to get all this crap from you. I think if you start, maybe send an intro letter and then call behind it and be asking that question, then you both feel really good. You feel good about sending because you know that they want it. They feel good about receiving because you've asked for permission. And it's stuff that they're interested in. Oftentimes, make sure that it is. Send them stuff that's going to, it can be real estate related and not only applicable to them when they're moving. Like it could be things about lending and interest rates. It could be credit score. It could be like, what's the hot area? Even people that aren't moving are kind of interested in that. Real estate's just kind of a fun thing to talk about. So what are the good school districts? How are people scoring in schools? Man, there's just a million. So once you have this list of people, it helps us to be better business people, to think about them obviously as people, but to rate them as far as their ability to impact your business. So we're not rating them as people. Somebody can be a really good brother, but a terrible referral partner because they're just not wired that way. So I might have my brother over for Thanksgiving and we'll laugh a lot, but he's never referred me, and that's okay. But when I'm taking my time to call through my database, I'm going to think about people who are in a position to refer. Like our business owner, salespeople type of people tend to know more people and are in that position more frequently. So I'm going to think about who in my database is in that position more often and who are just built that way. Some people are just, they're just the kind of people that like you to take their advice. That if you mentioned, I'm thinking about moving, they wouldn't just say, oh, that's nice, how come you're doing that? They would say, oh, you have to use my person. I put it, whatever it is. I'm going to go to the movies. Oh, you have to see this movie. They're the kinds of people that are always advocating for this thing or the other. Who are your walk and talk and billboards? So and this is a Buffini thing too, go ahead and rank them. A+ would be people that have referred you multiple times. A's would be people who have either used you themselves or have referred you, but maybe only once. B's are people that like you, and maybe they just need to be educated a little bit more in order to get to that place of a referral. C are people that you just met. And then D's are people that you should just delete. You hated working with them. If they referred somebody that was just like them, you'd probably refer them to your worst enemy kind of people. Like, just get rid of them. And I think that's okay. That's maybe one thing. I'm not going to advocate letting clients go all the time. Please don't get crazy with this concept, of course. But I've had a few clients that I either just didn't call them back or that I just actively let them go, fired them, because life's too short and money's not everything. And that's okay. It really frees us up time and emotional to go after people who are good. And that's part of the high trust marketing too, right? Is those people that you hate don't trust you. They just, they're just using you, is how it ends up feeling. Online leads are gonna be basically a C, but not even quite a C, because you haven't met them. You don't have any any kind of relationship with them. And this is what we're going to talk about a little bit more next week, is how to cultivate online leads in a way where they do have some trust in you. I had some people that came to me from Yelp, actually, and they were awesome because even though I didn't know them, based on my Yelp reviews, they felt like they knew something about me and my business. And they got in touch with me, said, we're going to be in town in May, whatever. Are you available? And I said, hey, listen, I'm out of town right now, so I can't talk to you this second. I'll be back on Monday. But yes, I am available those dates that you're going to be in town. Let's touch base later. And they waited for me. So you can cultivate trusted clients in an online way, and that's what we're going to talk more about. But having said that, the reason that this is seminar number 1 and that seminar number 2 is because if you only are going to come to one or the other, this is the one. Focus in on the people you already know and invest in those relationships. And when you're calling through your database, start with your A pluses. You're going to get much more return on your time and your effort if you start first with people that you already have a relationship with. When you give to a giver, they give back. So be in touch with them. So here's how I get in touch with people. And again, this is why this is a 2-part series, because even this I'm not going to get as deep into as I wish that I could. But consistency is a really, really big deal. It is how they know that they can trust you. If you're showing up consistently in your marketing, you'll probably show up consistently for them as a client when the time comes. I do snail mail newsletter once a month. Just to keep costs down, I do kind of go between something that's folded up in an envelope, or sometimes I just do postcards. It's hard to get as much information onto a postcard, so I don't like to do that every month. But the postcards are nice because nobody has to open anything. It's just right there. But one way or the other, not everybody is on email. Not everybody is on social media. And even if they are on email, I don't want it to go to their spam. Like, I know that they'll get a postcard from me. So I do think that that's important. Thanks, Liz. Liz does them too. I also send everyone an email once a month. So on the 1st, they get a newsletter, and on the 15th, they get an email. Email is cheaper, easier. I don't want to fatigue them with one every day, but once a month I think is appropriate. The other thing is calls. Again, the frequency of calls is going to depend if they're that A+, A, B, C. But I'm just going to call and see how they're doing. If they have any questions, if they need anything, and just be as genuine as you can. When you start with, how can I help you? They are naturally, almost everybody, I don't have to say, I'm in real estate, who do you got for me? Never. They always say, how's the market? How are things going? And that, anticipate that question and know what you're going to say, because it comes up almost every time. How's the market? How are you doing? How are you hanging in there with COVID? Like, you know what people are going to ask you. You don't have to start with that, and you don't have to bring it up anywhere you go. But when you're making your calls, you can start with, how are you? And then they'll ask in return, how are you? So know what you're going to say and try to tie it back to, I'm never too busy for your referrals, and letting them know how you can serve people, or even having an example of something that you just experienced. Oh, I had a great day. We just closed yesterday. These people that blah, 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 she was a whatever. And if you have a cute little story, again, we're letting people know. So a couple of questions. Do you send postcards to the same list every month? Yes, I do. I'm trying to stay in front of them. I'm trying to get a saturation of their mind, so to speak. I have a different message every month. Now, as far as purging my list, yes, from that standpoint, it does change slightly. I'm always trying to add as I meet new people. I mean, and everybody's had this happen where somebody that's on their list happens to sell with somebody else. It stinks, but that's the reality of things. Those people get off the list. Or if there's somebody that for whatever reason, I just don't want to be in touch with them anymore. That doesn't happen a lot, but yeah, I am going through my list, and some of that is just going to be based on phone calls that you make where, you know, they're whatever, good friend. Like I had a really good client who's like extremely close friend. They moved from Chicago to the Grand Rapids area to be close, to be nearer in proximity to this really close friend. That friend got their real estate license. So even though we still like each other, they still like all my stuff on Facebook. I know they're not going to refer to me. Their very best friend in the world has their real estate license. So yeah, I purge for stuff like that, and I try to be aware. What's my frequency of calling? I call, what I try to do, because honestly, calls are where I struggle the most. So what I try to do is about once a quarter, I do some kind of either client event or business mixer. And then that kind of forces me to make a bunch of calls and say, hey, I'm having, you know, whatever, summer party. We're going to have a barbecue at the park. I hope you can make it. That's obviously harder right now, but I'm going to put together a virtual business mixer, and that'll, again, give me an excuse to call my business people and see if they're coming. We'd love to see them there. So I try to get in touch with at least those A plus AB kind of people once a quarter. Yeah, Missy says, would it be good to add, she does once a quarter, should she add in frequency? I think yes. I don't know that I have hard data behind that, but I do know it's about staying in front of people, and when they have a need that you're right there. I know from reading The Millionaire Real Estate Agent that they recommend 12 touches a year. I just don't know if 4 letters is enough to get that saturation that we're looking for, but it depends on what else you're doing. But postcards are great because they're cheaper. Postage is cheaper. I think that is a lot easier. When we do, how often? So for me, I send postcards every other month. I do one that's a newsletter, that's a folded up and put it in there. And I can put more information, and then I do postcards the other one. And what I do is I have my database segmented into, they have referred me before, they're my AB kind of people, and they get every month. And then my C kind of people that I would love to move them up, but I don't want to invest a ton of money into them because I'm just not confident in our relationship that way. Those I send the postcard. So they get 6 a year. The other group gets 12 a year. And that's kind of how I handle it. So I think that's about all. I do have a few more things, but again, I'm glad we're doing a part 2. I'm gonna really dive into the online piece of things, what to do in social media, how you behave a little bit differently if it's YouTube or Instagram or LinkedIn or Facebook. And even within Facebook, there's different business page or profile or your groups, and how you post differently in all those different kinds of things, how to integrate all of that to your website, into an email. Should you be on TikTok? We're going to talk all about that kind of stuff. So I hope that you'll come back. Julie asked, so all that to say, for Con Ed purposes, that's all I wanted to cover, but I'm going to stay on for as long as you'll have me, if you have more questions. So do you have a company for your postcard, or do you write them yourself? So what we do at, thanks, Keith. What we do is, I have Molly, you've probably seen her on the chat there. She puts things together for us, and we actually, for Clarity Agents, have a marketing subscription that you can do where we'll put together your monthly postcards and send that out for you. And then the same with the monthly email. So we try to take that burden off for those things that are more administrative, and that's just a subscription based. So we use a website called My Neighborhood Agent, where you can upload your design and then upload your mailing list. And it's super easy. I'm not putting postage on, I'm not putting mailing labels on, I'm just uploading my list, and then they take care of the rest. And that's been really, really great. Oh yeah, Molly said we're gonna send out an email. That's true. We'll send out an email just inviting you for next week. And I hope this was helpful. I hope it puts you in the right frame of mind. Part of getting referrals is just to be looking for them, like the moonwalking bear. So I really, really appreciate everybody joining me today.